Hello. I am Hillary Bonhomme. I am a performer and composer based in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm really happy to be here. I luckily got a few opportunities to be an artist in residence within the last 6 months, and this is my favorite, and I'm not just saying that. This has been really special. The memories in the house, and then the way that's all getting further explored through these presentations, I really appreciate. So thank all of you. You can go to the first slide. Um, my journey in being a performer and composer, I think, is still unfolding with this tension of how introverted and isolated the process of composing sometimes needs to be, versus like my social and emotional needs to be around people, and the way music has been really institutionalized around Western traditions, especially in transcript writing, engraving, scoring, and just the Western scale itself is a huge institution. I have always sung, played instruments, done choir and whatnot whenever I could. But I think what really pushed me to write my own music was I worked in radio. That was my ticket to the big city. I'm from Louisiana, and I was a radio producer for a few years, which involved a lot of sitting in a room by myself, working in multi-track software. I think, yeah, I was trained in Pro Tools. I use Ableton now. Um, Multi-track recording, I didn't start doing it until I was like in my early 20s as a radio producer, but it really opened up a lot for me, practicing, singing over myself, improvising, building this big sonic landscape by myself, just adding more and more tracks. And then translating that to live became looping and using digital effects that kind of augment my voice and distort it in all these ways that create a bigger sound universe. So my practice has three parts that mirror this journey of solo versus collective music making. And the next slide is going to be a music clip from a piece that I'm sound designing for. It's a piece of new theater that's going to premiere in New York in April this month or next month. So we can play that. Yeah, so that is part of a play. That scene will be a kind of party scene. And I wanted to start with this because I think this is, I really appreciated what Layla said about how sometimes the stories come to you and tell you how they want to be written. I don't feel that I have that much say in how sound worlds build. I always end up in the situation where I get hired to do something like this and I say it's going to be this one acoustic landscape or mixed digital and whatnot, and then it ends up being something else. I was traveling a lot when I did this, so I was relying on MIDI and my voice basically. The next slide, I'll talk a little bit about before it plays, but this is from my solo album that is going to come out in May. And yeah, you should all follow me on wherever you stream music. This is going to be a more traditional songwriter's album, but it still has this effect of me playing all the parts, and a lot of things I do performing wise, I live accompany dancers, and I have a really strong dancer community, and I consider them a huge part of my process and how I think about music, how I think about narrative, how I think about build. So this is my longtime homie, Joshua Agia, and contemporary dancer, and we filmed this in October, and you can press play. Okay, cool. Next slide is the third category of my work. These are just some doodlings that are related to my ensemble piece writing. I reread Parable of the Sower just a couple years ago. I was thinking a lot about life as a dystopian concept. And I read that book and I was really surprised at how much the book really drives home the message of community and the need for community to survive in dystopian conditions. And at the time, I had a church singing job. I was hired for a few more ensemble singing works, which is always like super difficult for me because I don't cite sing music. I didn't have a traditional choir background. And I had performed Come Back to Earth initially as an experimental theater piece, doing it entirely solo, looping my voice, using a harmonic pedal to create a big sound. And I just really felt icky about it because I felt Octavia had taught me better, and Lauren would not do this. Lauren would not just keep her music to herself and have it be this solo thing. It really was meant to be shared. So I created a vocal ensemble, but I didn't want anyone to feel like they couldn't sing or that they weren't good enough to sing in an ensemble. So I talked about it as a music social experience and pitched it more as a hangout. And that's something that I've done at home in Brooklyn. And I had a video of it at a residency, but it funnily didn't work this morning, which is great because I would much prefer to sing with you all here. So we're gonna do a little call and response. I'm gonna sing and then ask you to repeat with me. Feel free to stagger breathe. We're going to do it again. Another part. If you want to sing the third above, we have some experienced singers in the group. So I'm going to harmonize. And if you like that pitch for your body, hop on. So we're going to do that one more time. Beautiful. And I'm going to ask you to drone, which was just a sustained pitch where you stagger breathe on that E for a second, and I'm going to tell you a little story on top. E. Keep going. E. Beautiful. Next slide, please. Oh, keep singing. I need my chorus. Okay, so part of the challenge of group singing is that I have to find a way to tell people what to do in a way that feels okay for me. As I said, I'm not a real rigorous Western classical person. So like this note, the way that this is written was just to remind myself what I was doing when I was singing a cappella. And this turned into this when I really had to teach it to people. A lot of these people that I first workshopped this on actually could read music, so it was kind of interesting to tell them that I didn't want them reading anything. I wanted them looking at me, repeating what I did so that we were as embodied as possible, and it wasn't based in like having a piece of paper in front of your mouth, in front of your face. Next slide, please. And we can stop. We're in a different key now. So this is Come Back to Earth. It's the actual piece that Come Back to Earth is named of. It still right now really lives in a loop pedal because it's quite complex. I had transcribed a version of it for the church choir that I was singing with at the time, and encountered a lot of like limitations basically in trying to score it this way. So this is kind of the before, and we're working on after right now, and kind of drawing it out in this playful way that's meant to be more of a basic form of memory keeping and archive rather than a very specific note by note set of directions. We can go to the next slide. And oh, the flowers. The flowers are here because I was obsessed with them. I was obsessed with drawing them. I thought they reminded me of hydrangeas, and I love hydrangeas. I do some side hustling, flower arranging, and I'm getting a little sad because actually 2 summers ago, a lot of the florists in New York City were saying that we're probably not going to be having hydrangeas because it's just too hot in the summer nowadays, and hydrangeas burn quite easily because they absorb and drain water from their petals. And the florists are just like, we can't keep these. They last not long enough. So I'm going into summer kind of thinking I won't be able to see a lot of hydrangeas. And I thought that they were a good motif for my writing, my desire to transcribe just a little bit, just to be archived a little bit in a performance-based medium. So next slide. Oh, this is the startings of a graphic notation for my solo piece. This is a very DAW forward, multi-track forward, lots of like glitching in the Ableton. So as you see, it doesn't have much written on the staff right now because it's not a huge part of it. And I wrote the lyrics in a way that's kind of fits the message and meaning of the song. So yeah, that's it for me. Thank you for listening. Sorry for going over time.
Piano, keyboard, guitar, what do you use?
I play those, but piano has been a bigger influence the last couple of years because, for one, when I'm transcribing music, I don't have to necessarily like go into Sibelius, which is the software that prints sheet music. I don't have to actually go in and click the note value. I can actually play it, and Sibelius takes that information and transcribes it roughly. And similarly, I'm a singer and I consider my first instrument singing, and I think piano and voice are deeply intertwined. It's hugely how we train our ears and our instruments. So But yeah, I love a solo acoustic guitar. That was my first setup when I started doing songs. And it's very romantic. I think it's just so fun.
I was interested when I first saw your notation, how it bleeds over into kind of the visual art piece
Mm-hmm.
itself, and I'm just wondering how you think of it as a visual art, or does it just make sense to you, or
Yeah, a little bit of both. I guess I love things. I love objects and materials and like script and handwriting, and I wouldn't get that out of a traditionally notated piece. I wouldn't get that hand relationship. Touch is very important to me. And additionally, it's like it can't I just have this kind of question of like, if the document contains information or instructions, like why can't it also be very playful and fun and exciting to just look at? I'm like a person who's like fine like renting out like 10 books from the library and reading like a third of one of them. Like I just kind of like the thing there, and knowing that it has all these properties, I feel nicer when it's close to me.